Hey everybody, it's Michael. I'm back again with another short video, and today I would like to show you Abluxxen. Abluxxen is a small card game, so this will only be a quick play video. Abluxxen is put out by Ravensburger. This is the German version, but I think an international version called Linko, and I think the name is the same in all other languages, will be available soon, I guess. Maybe it's already out. I'll talk about the name in a few seconds. The game is by designer duo Wolfgang Kramer and Kiesling, who are of course very famous for their, well, let's call them light to medium Euro games, but apparently they can also do other things. The game is for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, and it plays in about 20 minutes. There is a 2-player variant, which is apparently the better version if you're only playing with 2. I'll talk about the variant at the end of the video. It's rather easy to play, but it's not very intuitive, at least at the beginning, but this is actually what this video is for. About the name. Now, Abluxxen, spelled with a double X, is not a proper German word, but Abluxxen, spelled with CHS instead of the double X, would be, and Abluxxen means to take something away from somebody in a tricky, maybe even playful way, and it has lux in it, the German word for lynx. And of course, lynxes are thought to be very clever, hence the word in German, Abluxxen. Now, this is probably the reason why there's this lynx on the cards, although of course it's an abstract card game. Why exactly they chose to put this double X in the title, I'm not exactly sure. Maybe because it seems more hip, I don't know. So Abluxxen is a verb, which means to take something away from somebody. And this is actually what you do in the game. You take away cards from somebody else. And the English rules use the word snatch for this process. So again, taking something away from somebody. So this is what I'll be using in the video. And what I would like to do now is show you how exactly this game works by showing you a full 3-player game. Have fun. Okay, this is how the game looks at the start of a 3-player game. I've once again used colored markers from another game to better reference the different players as I perform their turns. Setup is rather simple. Each player gets dealt a hand of 13 cards from the deck, and then there is a common offer or supply in the middle consisting of 6 cards. Talking about the cards, there are no suits, there are only numbers from 1 to 13 and a joker. Each number is in the game 8 times, and there are 5 jokers. And yes, there are colors, but the colors are basically redundant because each number has the same color. In this game, we'll follow the actions of the blue player, so I'll reveal his cards, and then we're already ready to start. This card over here could be used to indicate the current player, and it would be passed around accordingly. And it's not too bad an idea because later on turns can get a bit involved and you might forget whose turn it actually is, but in this game we won't be using it. So the game will last until either somebody plays their last card or until both the deck and the supply are gone. And whenever that happens, for both conditions, the game ends immediately. And at the end of the game, you will get 1 point for each card that is in your display in front of you, no matter their value. And you get 1 negative point for each card that's still in your hand. You tally those, and then whoever has the most points either wins the game or you play over multiple rounds. The rules suggest that you play as many rounds as there are players or any multiple of that number, because then the starting player advantage is mitigated. This is our hand. It's a good idea to group the numbers and also sort them in ascending order. And on your turn you play 1 or more cards. If you play more than 1 card, they all have to be of the same value. You can use a joker either on its own or together with other cards. Together with other cards, it takes that value. On its own, it's the highest card, so basically a 14. Now the thing is, you want to play cards on the table, of course, because they will score you points, but on the other hand, once they're on the table, they can be snatched by your opponents, so you have to be careful about that. On the other hand, you might want certain cards to be snatched, because if cards are snatched from you, you get a compensation, basically from the supply or the deck. And if we look in the supply, there are some nice cards in here, especially these 2 12s and that 11, because you already have 2 12s. I'll go into the exact process of snatching in a minute. For now, let's decide to play 1 or more cards, and we actually decide to play that 6. Cards you play go in front of you in a staggered display, so basically this turn we play the 6, and the cards you play next turn we'll put on top so that the 6 is still visible, and it's always clear which card were played recently. And then we move clockwise to the red player's turn. The red player decides to play a single 3, and now, since it's the second turn of the game, we already have to check whether cards can be snatched. Since you can only snatch if other players have cards in front of them, there is no snatching on the first turn. In the rules there's actually a flowchart to explain the process of snatching, and well, flowchart looks complicated. It might be at first, but after a couple of minutes you don't need it anymore. But let's go over it for now. The current player has to compare their played card with the uppermost cards of all their neighbors, starting clockwise, but only once. So the yellow player doesn't have any cards, but we have to compare the 3 with the 6. It's the same number of cards, and the card played has a higher card number. Well, it is the same amount of cards, 1 card, but the played card doesn't have a higher number than this card, so no cards are snatched. And it's yellow's turn. Yellow plays a single 8, and again we have to check. So first the blue player. Yes, it's the same number of cards, and the played card has a higher card number. Now the next question is, does the current player want the snatched cards? Yes, in this case the yellow player wants that 6, so the current player adds the cards to the hand. And the robbed player replenishes the hand. They lost 1 card, so they can either take 1 card from the supply or 1 blind from the deck. But we actually wanted one of those 12s, so we get that and add it to our hand. And the supply is replenished from the deck. But we're not done, because we've only compared with the blue player. Now we also have to compare with the red player. It's the same case, so the 8 is higher than the 3, and again the yellow player wants the 3, so he adds it to his hand. And the red player gets to draw compensation, and they take the 4, add it to their hand, and it's replenished. And now you maybe see why it could be good to actually keep in mind who's the current player, because it can get a bit involved. But now it's our turn. We have a single 8, so it would be nice to get that 8 over there from the yellow player. So we decide to play our single 11. It's compared to nothing and the 8. We want the 8, so we add it to our hand. And the yellow player takes the 12 in compensation, which is a great card of course, so maybe that wasn't worth it. But let's see. Red plays a single 10. Yellow doesn't have anything. Our 11 is higher, so no snatching takes place. So the question is, why did the red player play that 10 actually? Doesn't he have anything better to do? Or is it meant as a bait? Does he want it to be stolen from him because he wants something from the display? We don't know. Yellow player plays 2 1s. Nothing is snatched. And it's our turn. We don't have any single cards to play, and it probably doesn't make too much sense to take a group apart just to play a single card. So why not play our 2 7s? Now with those 2 7s, because they're the same number and are higher than the 2 1s, we actually snatch them. But in this case, let's say we don't want them because we don't have any other ones that we could make use of. So we're in the no case. So now the robbed player has to decide whether he just wants to pick them up and add them to the hand again, or put them into the discard pile and replenish the hand. And the yellow player who wants to put them in the discard pile. And now, since they lost 2 cards, they also get 2 in compensation, so they take both these 6s. And once again we have to ask ourselves, was that worth it? And of course, we replenish. Red plays 2 5s, no snatching happens. The yellow player plays 4 6s, so of course no snatching happens because nobody else has played 4 cards yet. Then on our turn we actually have a decision to make. We could use our 3 12s and the joker, because then would be 4 cards, and go snatch these 6s from the yellow player. Now, the question is, what would we do with the 6s? Would we keep them, play them later on? And the thing is, if we decide to take them, the compensation right now isn't that good. There aren't so many high cards in there. Let's actually do that. Let's play our 3 12s together with the joker as 4 12s and snatch those 6s. The thing is, of course, if somebody has 4 13s, they could take away these 12s from us and the joker, but that's probably a risk we have to take. So we say we want those 6s. So the yellow player gets to draw 4 cards in compensation. And he decides to take the 11, 1 blind card from the deck, another blind card from the deck, and the 2 over here. And then we replenish. Red plays 2 2s, no snatching happens. And as we feared, the yellow player actually plays 4 13s. So he gets to snatch our cards. Of course he wants them. And the thing is, these cards are probably safe. The only thing that could snatch them would be 4 jokers, and since there's already one here and he just stole one from us, chances that somebody gets 4 jokers are pretty low. We get 4 cards in compensation, so we want that 8 of course, because that goes with these 2, but the other things don't match anything we really like, so let's go for a blind card. Another 8, that's great of course. Still 2 more to go. 13, also good. and another 8. So that was actually quite lucky, despite the fact we just lost 4 points and really helped the yellow player. The red player plays another 2 cards, 2 7s in this case, and you can see that while yellow and blue are really aggressive in each other's face, snatching cards back and forth, the red player can just play cards. Because since we fought for so many cards, he with his 2 cards was of course unaffected. The yellow player plays 6 12s, no doubt some of them the ones he stole from us earlier on. But while it hurts our ego, at least it doesn't snatch anything. Now we do have some nice series of cards. The question is which one to play. The yellow player has a lot of cards left, the red player not so much, so maybe the game could end really soon. A 3 13s should still be safe because again it would need 3 jokers. We know the yellow player has at least 1 left because he didn't play the one he took from us yet. That might be still risky. Our 5 8s are great of course. Let's take it slow and play 3 2s. Again, those don't snatch anything because we only have 6 cards and 2 cards. Red plays 3 4s, so he can snatch our 3 2s. He actually doesn't want them, and we just decide to take them back because then we can play them again, which would probably be better than picking stuff from here, which would just put single cards in our hand. So we just take those 3 back into our hand, and we basically lost the turn. Yellow plays a single 7, no snatching happens. We decide that it's time to put out a lot of cards really quick because red doesn't really have many left. So we decide to play our 5 8s, which don't snatch anything. And there it is, the red player plays 2 1s and a joker, so he goes out. The game is over immediately. These cards don't snatch anything. I mean, in this case they couldn't, but even if they could, the game is immediately over. No more snatching with the last cards played. Well, now we can tally our points. For the red player, it's all plus because he has nothing left in his hand, so he has 13 points. Yellow has 11 cards in their display and 8 cards remaining in their hand. 11 minus 8 is 3 points. And we definitely took too long. It would have been easy to play these other cards within 3 turns, but we were too slow. Now we have 8 cards in our display and 10 cards still in our hand, so that's a whooping -2. So red would have won this round or this game if that were the only round we were playing. And that is basically how Abluxxen works. Now, finally, let me briefly talk about the official 2-player variant that didn't come with the original game but can now be found online. It's a 2 players only, it's called Duel, and it's a little bit more tactical than if you were to play the normal game with just 2 players. Now, the card row is set up normally, and then each player only gets dealt 11 cards, and each player also gets 2 jokers. And then we have a ghost player, and he also gets dealt 13 cards, so let me just do that. And the hand of the ghost player is actually revealed and sorted by numbers, so you can always see which are singles, which ones are doubles, etc. And then you take all the 13s and the jokers, although there's only 1 joker left at this point, and you put these 13s and jokers on the lowest cards in the card row. And then you replenish his hand to 13 again. So actually, it looks like this. If at this point there were more jokers than 13s, you would put them on the lowest cards again, which would in this case be the 3, then the 7, and so on. And then you would replenish again until at some point he has 13 cards that are neither jokers nor 13s. Then during gameplay, you're of course free to take one of these pairs from the card row whenever you replenish your hand. And taking a pair actually only counts as 1 card. And whenever you snatch, you have to snatch from the ghost player if it's possible. For example, if I play a single 9, then I have to either snatch the 5 or the 1 from the ghost player. You always snatch from the ghost before you snatch from your opponent, and the ghost's cards are always replenished from the draw pile. Again, if you get any 13s or jokers, they're put into the card row. And finally, the ghost player never takes a turn, so he never actually plays cards, and consequently he can't snatch cards himself. And all the other rules remain unchanged. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this overview of Abluxxen. You've probably seen that it's not a hard game to play. Yes, it takes some time at the beginning to get into the mindset of the game, and you've also hopefully seen how it's a very interesting game to play. And also what's fascinating in my opinion is if you play multiple games after the other, the kind of, well, let's call it a meta game that is developing. Because you'll have one game where there is a lot of snatching, and especially with more players and all the snatching back and forth and the replenishing, the game might end because the draw deck runs out. And then you have other games where everybody is very subtle and purposely playing cards that won't snatch anything to not give the other players any opportunities to replenish their card. So somebody might play a 5 and then somebody plays a 4 and then somebody plays 2 8s and then the next player plays 2 7s and so on, and nobody's snatching anything, and the game will just go its merry way and end very soon when somebody plays his next card, and then everybody says, oh, that was rather boring, let's try a little bit more snatching, and then everybody snatches again. And well, on your turn you have to decide whether you want to put out cards and they should stay out, or whether you want to bait people with really low or single cards so you can actually get something better from the middle. And the thing is, if everybody puts out 1s or 2s hoping they would be snatched, somebody will eventually snatch them, and then they have a bunch of 1s and 2s on their hand, and if they play them out at one point, like 6 1s, that in turn is rather hard to snatch again. And so you really have to be careful which kind of opportunities you're giving your opponents. I guess that's already it. As always, thank you for watching, have fun playing, and until next time, bye bye.